Today on Spring Break Recipes, I get dressed, Andrew gets a snack, and we make, we spill a cake. We make a chocolate flourless cake. So today we're making a flourless chocolate cake with a chocolate ganache topping. For this, you're gonna need 1 cup of chocolate chips. These are bittersweet chocolate chips. You could use semi-sweet as well, but the bittersweet makes it just a little bit deeper of a flavor. 1/2 cup of butter, 3/4 cup of sugar, plus 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and then this is about 1 to 2 teaspoons of espresso powder or coffee powder. I'll tell you about that in just a minute. I need 3 eggs, a teaspoon of vanilla, 1/2 cup of cocoa powder, and then for the ganache topping, another cup of chocolate chips or bittersweet chocolate chips, and then 1/2 cup of cream. I also need to grease my 8-inch round pan and line it with parchment. Hey everybody, today we're making a flourless chocolate cake. It might be past noon and I might not be dressed yet today, but you know, quarantine time, I can do whatever I want. That's the way it's gonna be. So we're gonna start by taking a look at our 8-inch cake pan. I've already greased it, and what I need to do is line it with parchment paper so that it doesn't stick, because we're gonna turn it upside down and you don't want it to like fall apart. If you ever watched Nailed It and it comes out and it's like all like terrible, it's because they didn't really grease their pan or line it with parchment. So I've taken a rectangular piece of parchment and I've folded it into a triangle, into half and then in half again. So it's like a triangle. And then I'm going to measure from the center of the pan to, and then just mark with my finger where it is about the edge. And then I'm going to kind of cut it almost like I'm making snowflakes. And you don't need to get it exact, you just need to do your best to get it close, because that will do pretty well. And if you've sprayed the pan all the way around, it should be totally fine. And then I'm gonna take my pan, I'm gonna pop that in there. If it's a little bit bigger, that's fine. Just kind of push it down and it will come over the sides a little bit, but it'll be fine. So that's how I'm gonna start with lining the pan, and then we're gonna get to actually mixing the ingredients together. Okay, so what you can see here is I've got what I've kind of a halfway double boiler. Below my bowl is a pot of about 1 inch of water that I'm gonna bring to the simmer. And then I have a bowl here filled with the chocolate chips. Now, melting chocolate chips and butter can be done in 2 ways. I like this because my mixing bowls are metal. I could have put the butter and the chocolate chips into the microwave, but I would have to put them into a microwave safe bowl. And I prefer these mixing bowls here. So I just make up a mock double boiler so that I can mix it on here. The other thing too is I feel like I can control the melting a little bit more when I put it into the microwave. Sometimes you can burn or scald the butter, and that makes for really bitter chocolate and butter. So what I've got here is my chocolate chips. You can see a little bit are starting to shine, and the butter is going to melt. And what I want to do is get that nice and smooth, and again, control the temperature of the water below so that it just gently melts it. All right, so I've melted the chocolate. Again, you could do it in the microwave as long as you do it in a microwave safe bowl. You do want to just make sure you melt it a little bit at a time, so 10 to 20 seconds at a time, just so it doesn't scald. So here my butter is nice and smooth, and then I'm gonna start adding in the rest of my ingredients. Again, mise en place really helps to make it go more efficiently. So I've got 3/4 cup of sugar, and then I've got the salt and the espresso powder. The espresso powder is 1 to 2 teaspoons. And just as a note about that, espresso powder is gonna add a really deep flavor to the chocolate. If you add just a teaspoon in, it's gonna deepen the flavor. If you add 2 teaspoons in, it's definitely gonna taste more mocha-y, more kind of coffee-y. So just kind of take note on that and decide how much you wanna put in. This recipe is taken from King Arthur Flour, which has great recipes. they're very consistent, and they make sure that you kind of know the reasoning behind everything. So this is the sugar and the cocoa powder, or sorry, the sugar and the espresso powder and the salt. And you can see it turns a little granular, and that's okay, don't freak out. And then I've got the 3 eggs. I'm gonna add the vanilla in to that, and then I'm gonna mix this in. By the way, before you start mixing your chocolate and the butter with everything else, just let it cool for a little bit. You wouldn't want super hot chocolate and then mix the eggs in, because it would start to scramble the eggs. So you're gonna go ahead and mix this thoroughly until it comes together. Maybe it is a good thing that I'm still in my pajamas, because you can't see my face on this particular angle, and that's not a bad thing. So here is my mixture together with the eggs. And then the last thing I'm gonna add in is the cocoa powder. This is a 1/2 cup of cocoa powder. It's Hershey, I think it's Hershey Dark, so it's gonna be extra rich. Oh, just as a note, if you are using semi-sweet chocolate versus bittersweet chocolate, that's just gonna kind of be obviously how much sweetness is in it. It's gonna be a little bit more bitter of a cake, or a little bit less sweet of a cake if you use the bittersweet chocolate, versus the semi-sweet tends to have kind of more of a real cloying sweetness to it. Okay, so that's it. Now I'm ready to put this into my pan, which again has been greased, and then I put the parchment paper on top. It's gonna come out nice and smooth. I've got my oven preset to 375, and I'm gonna put it in for about 25 minutes and just watch to see when it's done. You're gonna smooth it all out to the side. It is a pretty thick cake, but remember, it's gonna expand. Okay, and if you do wanna just knock out any air bubbles, one trick is to take your pan and just wrap it on the bottom, and that's gonna take out any air bubbles. Okay, so this is gonna go into 375 for about 20-25 minutes. Hi, look, I got dressed today. It's pretty exciting. Now we're gonna finish up, God, I'm too tall for this, it's crazy. So now we're gonna finish the ganache part of this recipe. So in the microwave, I have the 1/2 cup of cream, and I've microwaved it for about 45 seconds until it starts to just simmer. And then a ganache is just really chocolate and cream. And in order to mix it really smoothly, you really don't even want to heat the chocolate. You're heating the cream and then letting the chocolate melt into the cream. So I've got the chocolate and the cream melting together. I'm gonna give that just a second to sit and let it come together. Meanwhile, I've got my pan. I've got my pan, and I'm gonna run the knife around it. Pretend I did that in a very smooth way. And then here's the trick. Cake stand on top, invert it, turn it over, lift it out, and voila. All right, and now I'm gonna pull this off, and it easily comes off. I'm gonna continue to stir up my ganache, and then we're gonna pour it over top. All right, so while I'm finishing pouring this, let me just tell you a little bit more about ganache. Ganache it can be in a couple of different variables, but it is usually cream, heavy cream, and chocolate. So in this case, the ratio was 1 cup chocolate to a 1/2 cup cream. You can see how smooth it's getting there. And this will make it pretty thick. If you want it to be a little bit thinner, then you just adjust the ratio of cream to chocolate. So if I wanted a little bit thinner, I might do a 3/4 of a cup of cream to, what did I say? A 1/2 cup? No, 3/4 of a cup cream to a cup of chocolate. But the whole idea is that it's nice and smooth, and then I can drizzle it on. hello. And then I can smooth it out. Now, if we weren't in quarantine, maybe I would have gotten some raspberries or some strawberries. So, little known fact, your moms haven't been telling you this, but the chef gets the first piece of cake, even before it's actually dessert time. I hope you've been enjoying the spring break recipes. It's a lot harder to film videos than I thought. I think I need a professional camera person. Oh man, not good. Not very good. I hope you guys are well. Miss you. Bye.